Common Sense Buffs, what's up? What's up? What's up? This is CSB Leo. I am streaming live. Just jumped in, doing a little bit of a Nebraska preview for next week. The Colorado Buffaloes are going to be traveling to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers. I have been watching this game. I didn't have a chance to get on here and live stream when the game first started, so I'm jumping into the game right now. We are at 4 minutes in the second quarter. Nebraska is currently up 23-7. I'm going to be giving my analysis as I watch the game. Some of my takeaways so far over the first quarter, and almost 75% of the second quarter gone. So right now, UTEP is driving. They brought in their late hit. That's an undisciplined play by the Nebraska defense. The backup quarterback, McConnell, is currently in the game right now after the game was started by a different quarterback. So, yeah, man, I'm breaking down this game right now. They're doing a replay of this late hit. Yeah, dude, you can't do that. You can't hit the quarterback like that. All right, y'all, come on in. As you come on in, hit that like button so this stream can go out to more Colorado Buffaloes fans who are interested in my analysis, our analysis together of this game. All right, so key takeaway so far. Uh, in the trenches, Nebraska, both on the offensive line and the defensive line, they're big, man. So there's definitely going to be trench warfare involved next week when we play Nebraska. They are clearly bigger than UTEP, and they're dominating right now in the trenches on both sides of the ball. However, UTEP is not intimidated. And that's what's making this a very interesting game. UTEP did not go to Lincoln, Nebraska thinking, oh, we're playing a superior team. They came to play. Although the score is 23-7 right now, that is not an indication of how this entire game has gone. Nebraska has not played a perfect game in order to be 23 to 7. UTEP has shown me some looks that might be very interesting for us to replicate. All right, run play. UTEP is using a lot of movement with the offensive line, a lot of shifts when they have multiple wide receivers, a lot of motions in order to set up the run. So a lot of counter plays are being used because they can't push Nebraska around. They're trying to use misdirection in order to run the ball. So that was definitely a 7-8 yard gain on the last run. So again, like I said, right now they have their quarterback number two in the game, and what the commentators were saying, he's a much better passer. He just threw an interception. Unforced error right there. Now, even though he threw an interception, I have not been impressed by Nebraska's coverage. I think CU, with the wide receiver room that we have and the quarterback, of course, that we have, they'll have an opportunity to make plays against the secondary. I have not seen that shutdown corner, shutdown safety with UTEP and the quarterback play of UTEP. I don't think they've really been tested this game. I'm doubtful we're going to see them tested this game, so I really can't judge their secondary, quite frankly, except for the fact that I don't see us having problems being able to throw the ball. What I think we may face and what we have to figure out is how do we run the ball against that front four. And I think Nebraska may play a 3-4. I'll come back to that the next time that they're on defense. So Dylan Raiola, he gets sacked. This is his first sack, I think, of his college career. I just mentioned that the game is going to be played in the trenches and how much better or bigger Nebraska's offensive line is. Dylan Raiola just got sacked, and he took a pretty serious hit. Helmet came off. He has to come off the field. Every time you get hit and your helmet comes off, you have to come off the field. This is the second time that offensive line has been beat, but on the first time that offensive line got beat and there was somebody in his face, he still stood in the pocket. He was poised, completed the pass, and actually scored a touchdown. So as you guys come in the room, man, hit that like button. I don't know how many Colorado Buffaloes channels right now are streaming a preview of the Nebraska game versus UTEP. Your support is much appreciated. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. The game is currently on commercial. I'm gonna keep this thing going. So Dylan Raiola he's had an interesting first half of college football. To be honest with you, I think as a freshman, he's done everything that his coach has probably coached him to do and asked him to do in this game. Number one, I've been very impressed by his poise. Now he is at home, so he has the crowd on his side, and he is playing UTEP. This is no shot at UTEP, but he's not really. This is not a big game. It's not as big a game as there will be in Lincoln next week when Colorado comes to town. So looking to see how well or how poised he's going to be next week because quarterback play is all about poise. And we know we have one of the most poised quarterbacks, whether under pressure or not under pressure. Shadeur Sanders stays the same, whether winning the game or playing from behind. He's going to stand in that pocket and he's going to deliver. So, very interesting first look at Dylan Raiola. One of the things that he gets talked about for is that he trains with Patrick Mahomes' quarterback coaching team. And he models his game after Patrick Mahomes. And some of that was on display in this first quarter. So he throws a beautiful deep ball. We cannot allow Nebraska wide receivers to get behind our secondary because one of the things I've seen he's been very effective at is throwing that deep ball. They're going to take shots down the field. That is part of Matt Rule's game plan, and he took advantage of this secondary. The wide receivers have gotten behind them a couple of times. There was a big drop on the first drive of the play where he threw a beautiful kind of 50 yards in the air, perfect spiral. Ball was in the only spot where the wide receiver could go get it. He laid out, but it went right through his hands. So the kid can play. The kid can throw the long ball. He's poised. The other thing that I found interesting, and they were talking about in terms of his training with Mahomes' camp, is his arm angle. So traditionally, you have quarterbacks throwing the ball like this, even when they're on the run. So he's using multiple angles to throw the ball. You see that on well-off videos when Shadeur is practicing, trying to get multiple arm angles for throwing the ball. He had a beautiful example of that early in the first half. So as a quarterback, it's going to be interesting. Right now, he's demonstrating poise. He just took his first sack, got hit, and his helmet came off. We'll see how he responds to that. But a great play by the undersized UTEP defensive line to get to the quarterback. All right, we're back from commercial break. Nebraska has been effective running the ball, and they have a much more traditional running game in terms of their formation. Raiola, for the most part, has been in shotgun and he's been handing the ball off in a single back formation. They are running the ball right now by committee. My understanding is that they have four running backs in the rotation. At this point in the game, we've seen all of them. All of them are very similar, though. There's not a wide variation. All of these guys are relatively small and quick running backs. I haven't seen one with kind of that breakaway speed. But they've been very effective at running the ball, and that's because they're so dominant up front in terms of the size difference. So it's 3rd and 11, and what UTEP has done well is they forced Nebraska into multiple third down situations, and on one of these drives where Nebraska scored, they had to get a first down on 4th down. So it hasn't been kind of easy sledding for the Nebraska team. They've had to earn these 23 points. So this is not what the score indicates. And what I love about UTEP is that they're gang tackling. Usually there are 2 and 3 guys to the ball, but they're hitting, man. You should hear the pat cracks in this game. I got the volume kind of turned off right now, so I can't really hear the commentary and the hits, but UTEP is laying the wood, right? They came to play. They are not intimidated. They already caused a fumble in the second quarter, I believe. Nebraska was driving. One of the safeties came up and laid a hit, helmet right on the ball. Looked like a Shadeur Sanders hit, caused a turnover. And so we're going to have opportunities to create turnovers when we play them. So it's the second quarter, a minute left. Raiola all day in the pocket, stands back there confidently, throws. It looks like a dig for a first down. All right, guys. So what are you looking forward to next week? What did you think about last week's game, or I'm sorry, the game earlier this week? Give me your analysis in the comments. We want this to be interactive. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate you joining me on this live stream. So we got a player hurt right now on the UTEP team. They might take an injury break right here. So maybe we could talk about our takeaways from the Colorado Buffaloes game versus NDSU. I think the big takeaway from me, a couple of things. Number one, Rick George needs to chill. Last year, first game of the season was TCU. Incredible game. That game is what caused me to start following Colorado and ultimately launch this channel. That's a tough matchup against a ranked team. Rick George puts them, I don't know if it was up to him before he was there, but that game was on the schedule, right? That's not an easy team to start with. And that's what created really the phenomenon of Colorado Buffaloes football. It was such an incredible game. Okay, they got Raiola scrambling. He does a smart thing. He throws the ball out of bounds. Now, listen, I'm sorry, I was talking about something else, but the game came back on. They got the guy off the field. Uh, UTEP is getting pressure. UTEP is getting pressure on Raiola. They're undersized defensive line, but what the commentators were saying is that the defensive coordinator really planned to do a lot of slanting. So they've now gone from a 4-3 front to a 3-4 front. Raiola is kind of taking what the defense is giving him right now. That was second down and 10. He threw like a comeback, so now it's third and 2. So the kid is accurate, man. He's putting the ball right on the wide receiver. So far, there's a wide receiver, 6'3", Neighbor. He's been the number one go-to receiver. Oh wow. Defensive line got penetration there. The running back was able to break the tackle, so Nebraska first down. So far on the scouting report, my scouting report, there's one wide receiver to really be concerned about. His name is Neighbor, 6'3", hard to bring down, big catch radius. I wonder which one of our DBs are going to have to play him. Probably Travis. Um, Again, Nebraska is just playing smart football, taking what the defense can give them. I think they're going to try to get 3 points here. It's the second quarter, 13 seconds left. Ball on the UTEP 21. He grounds the ball. Nebraska has one timeout. UTEP has no timeouts. 7 seconds on the clock. They're going to take three right here. So smart football, 2-minute drill. Raiola doesn't panic. He takes what the defense gives him, puts them into field goal range. So smart football right there by Matt Rule. So first takeaway from this week's game is Rick George needs to chill. Last year we had TCU as the first game. This year, the quote unquote giant killers came to town, North Dakota State. And I was joking with Harry B over at TLP Sports when we were doing the live commentary. I was like, scheduling North Dakota State. What? So I don't know if y'all are watching this game, but I thought they were going to take 3 points. There was 7 seconds left on the clock. They grounded the ball. They took a shot, 20-yard, 21-yard pass to the outside wide receiver. Ball was perfectly placed to the outside shoulder. Wide receiver comes down with it, touchdown. Nebraska extends their lead. I thought they were going to do the safe thing, which is just take the 3 points and go into halftime. But UTEP gets the ball at halftime. So they were like, yeah, we'll take a shot. So Matt Rule is not being conservative. He's playing with the lead, and he wants to see what his quarterback can do. So I think he's kind of getting Dylan ready for a situation where they might have to take one shot on a quick play and then come back and kick the field goal. But the kid's accurate. All right. He put the ball only where this wide receiver could catch it. Um, I haven't really seen this wide receiver make a lot of plays this game, so it's interesting. They may have another wide receiver out there besides Neighbor. Comes down with the ball. Great catch. So yeah, NDSU came to town and Prime said it, everybody says it. There's a reason why FBS teams are afraid or cautious about scheduling NDSU as the first game. I know there are other teams out there that have played a potentially tricky first game, like for example today Penn State with West Virginia. West Virginia is supposed to be a pretty good team in the Big 12, but Penn State is handling their business. Um, Georgia and Clemson. Georgia scheduling Clemson as their first game. That could be a tricky one. Not everybody is scheduling cakewalks as their first game, but I thought that NDSU and the style of football that they play for Colorado's first game was a tricky one. So that was my first thing. Hey, that was a tricky game to schedule. Well, however, they scheduled the game, they played the game, and NDSU was as advertised. Good quarterback in Cam Miller. He understands that offense. He doesn't try to make a big play. He doesn't try to do more than what the situation of the game is asking of him. He ran the ball effectively. He threw the ball when he had to. And so I think Cam Miller, for me, on the NDSU side of the ledger, was their player of the game. The second thing is, in the first half, the offensive coordinator on the NDSU side really had our number. All the plays that he was calling felt very. There was nothing fluky about the football, the kind of football that they play. Every play was fundamentally sound. They were calling plays in the right situations, and their players were executing. And so you have to give NDSU their credit. None of what they showed on Thursday night was a fluke. They played solid football the entire time. So I think that's something that Livingston was able to figure out in the second half. But I think in the first half, there was a little bit of, we got out schemed in some ways, their offensive play calling versus our defensive play calling. But I think we figured it out in the second half. Now, Shadeur is as advertised, and maybe even better. He played an incredible game at quarterback. Now, some of these old habits that Shador has, they die hard, right? So holding on to the ball a little bit longer than necessary. But I don't necessarily know that um, it's you could completely put that on him. I think there were certainly situations where the offensive line got beat. He was forced to scramble. On some of those scrambles, he should have just thrown the ball out of bounds, right? So he has to take accountability for that. And the other thing is, I think he's paying attention a lot to the stats, right, of his wide receivers, and because he has so many of them, he's trying to get everybody their touches. But you can't do that as a quarterback. You have to read the defense, and you have to get the ball to the open person, which he did a lot of that. He was very poised. He was very accurate, and he is in full control of that offense. That is his offense. Now, one of the other things that I know post game that Prime talked about, and I don't know if they had any interviews with Pat Shermer, but Shador has he's been granted the privilege of changing play calls. So not everything that you see on the field when the ball is snapped was what was called. And I think that's pretty interesting. I would love to hear the fans kind of chime in here. I'm doing this on StreamYard, so I don't know if I click say live viewer comments show up on StreamYard. This is an example. Click on the comment to show it on the screen. Show. Okay, all right, I got it. That's not how that works. All right, so y'all engage with me. What do you think about the fact that Shador has the ability to change the plays at the line of scrimmage, and every play that we're seeing is not necessarily what Pat Shermer called? I think that's an interesting point of conversation that we have to talk about as fans. Now, in the first half of the game, I think Pat Shermer called the right plays, and so the same was true. We are an explosive offense. Shador took shots down the field. Travis shows you what he can do, even in an intermediate route. When on his first touchdown, he ran that hitch, uh, caught the ball, made the cornerback missed, and there was a touchdown there. So the pass game was great. Now, what we talked about last year as an area of improvement for us was the offensive line. I think they played okay, but I don't think they played well enough for us to run the ball, which we have to. Otherwise, we're going to be a one-dimensional team. And as explosive as Colorado is throwing the ball, you become predictable and they're going to start to always bring pressure if all you do is throw the ball. So, although the offensive line played well, protected Shadeur, I think he only gave up one sack, even though he was hurried a couple of times and had to scramble. I don't think they did a good enough job of moving NDSU around in order to open up the run game, particularly on the inside. So that's my second takeaway when it comes to on the Colorado side of the ball. So Shador played great. Old habits die hard. I know he's probably going to fix some of these things. Number two is that not every play that we see on the field is what Pat Shermer called, because Shador is also making changes and he's learning as he goes. Number three, the offensive line did a good job of pass protecting. Much improved over next year, but last year, but some work to do. But they didn't do as great a job of run blocking, which I know we need in order to beat better teams down the schedule. The the other thing is Travis Hunter is incredible. And we had this debate on TLP Sports when we were watching the game live, is whether or not Travis Hunter is a better wide receiver than he is a cornerback. It's hard to argue that he's not a better wide receiver than a cornerback. But then again, I think when we watch him against teams that are willing to test him, we see how good of a cornerback he really is. So he wasn't really tested on Thursday when NDSU came to town. But I think he might when he goes to Lincoln next week and he's playing against Dylan Raiola. I think he'll get an opportunity, more of an opportunity, to show us his cornerback skills. But what an incredible wide receiver. His route running is crisp. And here's the thing, if that ball is in the air, whether it's 50-50, or even better yet, if the cornerback has a 90% chance of getting the ball, Travis somehow is always going to get the ball. He's much bigger this year. He's much more physical this year. You could see him in several instances. The NDSU fans might say, "Oh, nah, that was a push off," but he's just much stronger, so he can push you off, right? He could play like a bigger body receiver, not exactly a big body receiver. Receiver, he's certainly not as big as Will Shepherd, but he could definitely hold his own. He's not going to get pushed around this year by the bigger cornerbacks that he's going to play later on in the season. So Travis is incredible. That his third touchdown catch, which is crazy to say, right? A guy playing both sides of the ball, talking about a third touchdown catch, but that was incredible. The guy had his face mask; he was all draped over him. But again, that's the bigger size and the advantage of Travis Hunter. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I think Chidozie Nwankwo played a great game. We were talking about it on the live stream, and I said after he had a third and short, he had a stop. I said Chidozie is about to have a great game. And to me, some people say it was Bentley, other people say maybe Trevor Woods. But my defensive MVP of that game was Chidozie Nwankwo. He played a great game, had multiple stops, and he had a sack from the defensive tackle position. So kudos to that young man. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more of his name as the season goes on, as probably Sap's prodigy. If you guys have any other defensive players of the game, or you think maybe Bentley deserves it more than Chidozie or any other player, go ahead and put it in the comments. Guys, I can't see comments. I don't know if you guys are commenting or not. I'm trying to figure out this streaming thing on StreamYard. So go ahead and put your opinions, your thoughts about what I'm saying down in the chat. Am I off base? Am I on base? Did you see the same things that I saw? So we need better defensive line play. We need to be able to stop the run more effectively. But I think this week is different from Thursday because Nebraska has shown me a very traditional run game. They aren't using a ton of motion. They use some counterplay for misdirection, but because the size advantage is so big against UTEP, they're just pushing them around. They're kind of just traditional, not really power I, but similar, just running in between the tackles and imposing their will on the defense. If you're able to do that in the run game, you know over the course of a game you're going to wear that defensive line down. So we'll see how that impacts the second half. But what I know, UTEP has been getting pressure on Nebraska, right? And that's one of the things I know we need to do in order to get to a freshman quarterback is bring that pressure. I didn't really see a few big names because I did a game preview and I was expecting to see Torian Carter. If you guys saw Torian Carter out there, please let me know. I didn't see him. Sam O, I was expecting big things from him. I didn't really hear his name called. I don't know how much playing time he actually got. But those were some things I didn't see on the defensive side. I would love to see in game two. Now, linebacker play has been always an issue for us. I didn't really watch Bentley. I know he had a sack, maybe two. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was the highest graded linebacker, at least from the game footage. I don't know what PFF has to say about that, but we certainly need to improve our linebacker play. There were a couple of times that Trevor Woods was beat, but then there was a couple of plays where he made great linebacker plays, like chasing down Cam Miller on a potential big drive. I think it was in the third or fourth quarter where he chased him down from behind and made a play. So I think for some of the names that we need to really show up and play, we didn't really see, or I didn't see, that was just my perspective, the kind of play that we wanted to see from the linebacker room. Jeremiah Brown got some playing time as well. I think he was aggressive, but I'm not sure if he was the guy out of that room that was a difference maker. But the one player I wanted to see that I didn't see, particularly against a run team, was Jalen Wester. Now in the transfer portal, Jalen Wester was one of the highest graded linebackers against the run. I did a full video on Jalen Wester, so you guys can check out the channel. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Please hit that like button. I think I might be one of the only Colorado channels right now streaming and doing analysis on this Nebraska game. So we're at halftime of the Nebraska game, so I'm just chopping it up with you guys, talking about Thursday's game with the Colorado Buffaloes and North Dakota State. What else? The secondary play. I think NDSU was so effective with the run that our secondary, they didn't play the pass as well as I thought that they could. Now, maybe that's all you can do against an NDSU when the run game is working. Is just try to not get beat deep. The good thing they did was keep everything in front of them, but I didn't see anybody really make any big plays in the secondary, especially when we needed it on those third downs where they were converting crossing routes. Now, can you put that on the secondary? Maybe, maybe not. Linebackers also have to be better in coverage, but I didn't see a lot of plays from the secondary. Okay, so that's kind of my defensive analysis. Cannot talk about Thursday without talking about Jimmy Horn and the performance that he put on. We saw Shadeur. I talked about him. We saw Travis Hunter. Talked about him, but cannot leave out Jimmy Horn. Jimmy had an outstanding performance, almost 200 yards, and if he had caught that pass out of the backfield, he had a lot of green in front of him. He may have gone over 200 yards and probably been the wide receiver with the most yards in week one. So kudos to Jimmy Horn Jr. Great start to the season. Interesting. Talking about the run game, we weren't able to run between the tackles. But I think in Pat Shermer's offense, he uses well, at least the plays that we saw them run. Harry B and DC and the rest of the guys who were on the stream with me Thursday night, they were so in the moment I was so focused on the handoff to the running back as being a running play. But I think Shador accumulated some yards with some passes to the running back out of the backfield that could be seen as kind of an alternate to just handing the ball off and getting a run play off. One of the areas of the field where we saw that used effectively is on the drive right before halftime with a dump off to Charlie to get them out of the end zone. So I'm interested to see if you're not going to just straight up hand the ball off or run a toss play or hand the ball off and run a stretch play. Maybe they're using the back out of the backfield as a way to get to the edges and run the ball there. So I talked about Jalen Wester. We're still halftime right now. Nebraska UTEP. We're going to get back to it. Nebraska is up by bunches. I think it's like 30-7. But we'll get to talking about that game when the game comes back on. They're doing highlights of other games today. Tennessee looked good. Georgia looked good. No surprises there. Looks like Oklahoma State and South Dakota State. Um, let's see what's the score on that game. Gordon trucking people. 44-20. Oklahoma State, South Dakota State. So Oklahoma State got the win. Um, Iowa in the Big Ten, number 25. Looks like they had a big win today. So, guys, in the comments, anything you want me to talk about as we wait for this Nebraska and UTEP game to get started again? Because we're live streaming, we're watching the game. I just jumped on here at halftime. I want to hear from you guys. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you're not currently subscribed. Let me go over here to make sure I'm not tripping and you guys are commenting, but I don't have my settings right on StreamYard. And you guys can feel free to ask me questions if you have any for me. I'm here to answer any questions about Colorado football. So, how did you guys feel about the Thursday game, man? It's a win. It's a win. I think we could have played much better. But then again, the competition was no slouch. North Dakota was as advertised. They were going to be a tough team. They're not going to be intimidated. They're going to run the ball. They're going to be fundamentally sound, well coached. Oh, before I forget, let's talk about some of the calls that were made that people are questioning the coaching. Early in the game, there was a 4th and 1, and we ran the ball and we didn't get it. On the live stream on TLP Sports, we talked about that. And my initial reaction was that that was a bad call. That remains the same reaction that I have, not because they took a shot on 4th and 1, but where on the field that call was made and at what time in the game. Sometimes as a coach, you want to know whether or not your offensive line can impose their will. And I think that call was made on 4th and 1 in order to see if the offensive line was gonna show up. Now, where I disagree with that is I love that. I want you to be aggressive as a coach and I want you to trust your players, but not where that call was made on the field. I think it was 4th and 1 on the 35-yard line. If you don't get it, you've just lost the field position battle. And as a coach, you also know you have a weapon in Visset. Why not use it? It's 4th and 1. Make them drive the full length of the field versus giving them a short field and an opportunity to increase the score. So that was kind of my analysis on that 4th and 1 call. Time management was an issue in that game. And just like players, coaches have to also learn. Now, in Colorado, I know coaches don't get a pass. And that's fair because this is college football. This is the big stage. You have ton of NFL experience, people who have had to manage clocks at the pro level. You shouldn't necessarily give grace for poor time management decisions in a game like this. most of the momentum shifted in the second half. And there was a point where Colorado was dominant in the game, which is when we were up 31-20. Somehow, with certain calls in that third and fourth quarter, we gave NDSU the ball, particularly when we were almost down to the two minute mark. We gave NDSU the ball when we didn't have to, when we could have run out the clock. And again, this is one of those scenarios I'm thinking that not every play during that series was the play that was called from the sideline. We talked earlier about how much leeway Shadeur has to change play calls based on what he sees on the field. Some of the most legendary or the legendary quarterback doing that is Peyton Manning, where he would read the defenses, he would make changes at the line of scrimmage, and he would convert. I think some of those plays may have been Shadeur thinking that he saw an opportunity to take the shot down the field when really we needed to be more focused on running out the clock. We gave NDSU multiple opportunities when the score was 31-20 to get back in the game. And that has to be fixed because there are going to be teams that if you give them that opportunity, they're going to beat you. The last play of the game, instead of knocking the ball down, we had people in the secondary try to get an interception. Little things like that in the second half of the game that we need to brush up on. All right. Hopefully, this is entertaining, guys. Hopefully, you're having a good time keeping you company here on this Saturday afternoon. We're watching Nebraska and UTEP. Nebraska just kicked off. Touchback. UTEP ball to start the second half of the game. I am here. My name is CSB Leo. Welcome to Common Sense Buffs, man. We're a channel all about Colorado Buffaloes fans having common sense conversations about this season. Next up next week is the Nebraska Cornhuskers, coached by Coach Matt Rule. I don't know how much the beef or the bad blood is real. I know there's a little bit of friction there between Coach Prime and Matt Rule, so that should add some hype to the matchup coming up next week. We know they have one of the top quarterbacks in the 2024 class, Dylan Raiola at quarterback as a freshman. He's played extremely well. His ball placement is excellent. So we cannot see him as a freshman quarterback, at least from what he's shown so far this week or in this game. We need to get pressure on him. We need to play him like we're playing Alabama. We don't need to go in this game taking for granted that he can complete passes and he can make the tough throws. So second and 11 right now on the 25-yard line. They've gone back. UTEP has gone back to their QB1. Oh my gosh. Great pass to get the first down there. Very accurate throw. He put that ball only where the wide receiver could catch it. So 11-yard completion for the first down. And what I see UTEP doing is that they're not giving up on the run game, even though they're down 30-7. They're still executing on their game plan, still running the football, which I respect. Don't completely throw out the scripts simply because you're losing. You know, play your game plan even though you're losing. So they're using a lot of motion to confuse the defense right now by UTEP. Oh, the double pass, the trick play. Oh man, they couldn't get it off. They that was a smart play call, but it was read very well by a very disciplined Nebraska defense. Looked like they were about to throw the double play, the double pass. Threw it to one wide receiver, and he was looking downfield. I like that. Sometimes in football, you need trickery. If you can't beat them on the fundamentals because they're so much bigger than you, I think the average size of the UTEP offensive line is like 270 pounds. So they're getting pushed around a little bit. Pressure on the QB. He escapes the pocket. Oh, he got grabbed. Oh, did he get the first down? Ooh, he's about, it's like 4th and 1. That was a great scramble, though. Them dudes were bearing down on him. Smart play. Smart play by the quarterback. All right, guys, what are you guys looking forward to next week? Go ahead and throw it in the comments if you haven't already. I'm going to go to the channel. I'm going to go check out the live and see if you guys are commenting and I just can't see it in StreamYard. Mute this. All right, let's close that. All right, so I don't see anything in the chat, but if you throw it in the chat, I will respond because I am watching the chat. So thank you guys so much for joining me. We are doing a Nebraska UTEP commentary and analysis. Oh my God, he just got rocked. Did he just get? Oh, they gave him the first down. Okay, I think they had a first down. Uh, okay, so a 2nd and 15. Quarterback just got almost got his head knocked off on the UTEP side of the ball. So 2nd and 15. They try to run option. It gets completely crushed. Uh, very, the quarterback reads the defensive end when you're running option game. Defensive end was disciplined and stopped for a 2-yard loss. So a tackle for loss by the defensive end. And this might get ugly here. This is when football gets a little bit ugly. If this game starts to get a little bit ugly, if it gets out of hand, if we get to like a 42-point lead, I might drop off this stream because I would have seen enough and that Colorado needs to be prepared to play a tough game next week. I was looking to see if there were just some weaknesses that we could, you know, kind of say, oh, okay, well, we got them. I don't see any of that. Even with Raiola's play, you shouldn't have thrown that ball. You should have run it, gained what you could, and kicked and punted the ball. So yeah, guys, that's my promise to you. If the game gets really out of hand, 42-point lead, I'm gonna drop off here. But I think, okay, what's my analysis of what CU needs to do against Nebraska? Number one, we need to find a way to run the ball against this defensive front. Uh, they're no joke. I think many of them are 300 pounds. Oh, almost blocked the pump. Many of them are 300 pounds plus. And if we had, well, I think NDSU had a pretty big defensive line, much bigger than UTEP. But if we're going to be successful in that game, we need to find a way to run the ball against this defensive front. Now, what I would love to see, although big respect to Charlie Offerdahl, big respect to Dallin Hayden, I want to see in terms of who's lined up in the backfield on clear rundowns, definitely Dallin Hayden, and I want to see more of Micah Welsh. I think in order to defeat this defensive front, we're going to need to run some power football. We need to a running back who can run the ball with power, break tackles, and punish the defense for tackling them. Based on what I saw in Thursday's game versus NDSU, I saw a little bit of that angry running that you like to see from your running back from Dallin Hayden. And I know that's what we're going to see from Michael Welsh if he gets some play. I would rather see more run plays to Micah Welsh than to see Draylon Miller running the ball. I think he had a couple of carries in that game. What's up, Jamie? I appreciate you, man. I thought I was yelling into the void. Jamie, welcome to the chat. Much appreciated. The trenches have to show up. I agree with that. Let me drink some water, boy. I'm talking too much. Trenches have to show up, right, on both sides of the ball. Now, Jamie, which one of the trenches do you think, based on what you saw Thursday, needs to show up even more? Right? Which side of the ball? Offensive trenches or defensive trenches, given what you're seeing from Nebraska if you happen to be watching that game or based on what you're seeing from my analysis? Definitely trenches have to show up. There's 300 pounders all throughout both the offensive line of Nebraska and the defensive line of Nebraska. But Yes, we have to run the ball effectively, number one. Number two, we have to take advantage of what I am seeing right now as a not a shutdown Nebraska secondary. I think with wide receivers like Travis Hunter, LaJonte Wester, Will Shepard, and Jimmy Horn, those guys should have a big night against this defense as long as Shadora has time to throw the ball. They're dominating UTEP, but that's to be expected. I think our offensive line, if they could give Shador 3.5 seconds, I was watching my man David Talks Buffs, and he has access to PFF, so he can kind of see the scoring. I think Shador had about 2.9 seconds to throw the ball. That is not enough. We need to give him about 3.5 seconds against this defensive front for him to throw the ball. So Nebraska's back on offense. Great coverage by UTEP. So they called a play where Raiola scrambled out of the pocket on first down. He had layered receivers with a couple of crossing routes all going to the right, and all of the receivers were blanketed. He threw the ball but couldn't complete it. It was still a good throw because he didn't throw it at somewhere where the defense could have made a play on the ball, but great coverage by UTEP. We're in the third quarter, 10 minutes, Nebraska 30-7. All right, so we need to run the ball, and I think we could take advantage of their secondary if Shador has time. I've been impressed with the UTEP defensive linemen. These guys are not intimidated, even though they're undersized. They're still playing. They're playing fast, and what I liked from UTEP is that they were laying some big hits in the first half. So I want to see that continue, but their offense is not helping the defense. Their defense has just been on the field way too much. All right, Raiola drops back, throws a little comeback. Uh, this is he's playing very well. He's playing very very well. That's Neighbor again. I'm going to be watching this matchup between possibly Travis Hunter and this their number one wide receiver Neighbor. Kid's about 6'3", big catch radius, runs great routes. Just caught the pass for the first down. They're still running the ball by committee. Big run play there. They just gained 12, 13 yards on first down. So Jamie says, offensive side, Nebraska nose guard is a man. Yeah, Hank is going to need some help from both guards. Listen, man, it's number 0, and that is about as corn fed as you can be on the defensive line. He's going to the NFL, right? And we know Nebraska has a history of great nose tackles. And Indomitian Sue is the name that comes to mind. That boy's a beast. Again, comeback route, perfect throw. This time to the same wide receiver who caught the touchdown pass earlier. Hey, Rayola's playing, but that's because UTEP hasn't been able to get any pressure on him in the second half. So yeah, he's a big boy. Okay, they leak the tight end out of the great blocking by the wide receiver. First down again. If our offensive line can allow us to get ahead of Nebraska, our defense will eat Nebraska up. Okay, that's a fair commentary. What have you seen if you're watching the game that makes you think our defense will eat Nebraska up? I think the biggest thing that I've seen is just the size difference. We're going to be closer in size to Nebraska. Um, but otherwise, what about this game makes you think that our defense will eat them up? Uh, the only thing I could see is us being able to get a lot more pressure on Rayola, which might disrupt the pass game. But there's nothing about last week that makes me think that we're going to be able to stop their running back by committee. They've been subbing in 4 different running backs. all similar styles. They're using a lot of counters. They're using now more and more motion to kind of confuse the defense or to get them to shift at the last minute in order to be able to run the ball. So, Jamie, if I'm hearing you correctly, our defense is going to feed off of the offense. Uh, and if we get a lead, the defense is going to help us protect it. So once we're ahead, the defense is going to have a chance to pin their ears back and come after Raiola. Maybe, but we definitely need to stop the run game first. Raiola drops back, 3rd and 4, takes the easy pass to the running back in the flat, gets the first down. Just a smart read by a freshman QB. Um, yeah. So looks like it's turning into a blowout here. Nebraska's on driving to score. They are on the UTEP 3-yard line. Oh, so if we get ahead and we basically put the clock on our side, meaning if our offense controls the clock, we're in the lead because they're going to feel the need or the pressure to try to score quicker. They might turn to more, they might rely on the pass more, and that's going to give us a chance to come after the quarterback. Fair assessment, Jamie. I appreciate that. Oh, did they just try to run with Ray? Okay. Listen, chill, man. Chill. Matt Rule is like, uh, did he just try to run the? Oh, then maybe that was Wildcat. Yeah, I don't think they were running the ball with Raiola. I wasn't paying attention there. So they brought in a backup QB and try to run the ball in with him. Yeah, I know Matt Rule is not that crazy to try to run the ball in the red zone with his quarterback to try to sneak in. All right, y'all. We got more people in here. I know Jamie's contributing to the conversation. If you guys continue to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. A good coverage by number one. Oh, pass interference. It doesn't matter though. Sometimes in football, in the goal line situation, instead of letting the guy catch the ball, just pass interfere him. Yeah, interfere with him, and then you get a chance to play again because yeah, he grabbed him. So that was a good call. All right. So Jamie says our trenches are bigger and better than UTEP. Yeah, I mean, so that's what I mean by on the defensive trenches we are bigger. Hopefully, right? We're gonna be able to just stop the run no matter what the score is. If we are indeed ahead in the game and they're forced to throw the ball, guys like BJ Green, Dayon Hayes, Samuel Okunlola, which I did not see any Samuel Okunlola, Tajay McCoy, all of these guys who are highly touted coming out of camp, I'd love to hear their name that game with them getting to the quarterback, disrupting the run, getting sacks, and giving the ball back over to our offense. So we can continue to be explosive and we can see more and more of that playbook. So Nebraska is basically imposing their will on UTEP at this point. The score now is 36-7. We're in the third quarter, 5 minutes and 34 seconds left. I think I've seen all I need to see to say that we need to be prepared to play. We cannot sleepwalk our way into Nebraska and think that we're going to just walk out of there with a win. Dylan Raiola is going to be, we're going to need to show up and we're going to need to play defense. He's not playing like a freshman quarterback right now. What do I mean by that? He's poised. Again, this isn't as big a game as the Colorado game will be, but at least he'll be at home. Number two, he takes what the defense gives him. He's not trying to make big plays. He's just playing based on what the defense gives him. So being very disciplined. He throws a beautiful deep ball. None of his deep throws have been underthrown where they were at risk of getting picked off. He's putting the ball ahead of the receiver and allowing the wide receiver to run under the ball. His intermediate to short passes, we talked about on the drive that they were just on, him completing these comebacks to his number one wide receiver, neighbor, I think his name is. I'll have to check his name again when they're back on the field on offense. But he's just doing what he needs to do. So quarterback play is not going to necessarily be a deficit for them come next week. Raiola is proving himself to be competent. Number two, they're running the ball by committee. Next week, we need to be prepared to see four different running backs, meaning they're going to have fresh legs in that rotation. Guys who are going to be running downhill, a little bit shifty, but most of them are just looking to get downhill and get positive yardage. So UTEP is back on offense. It's first and 10. Let's see what UTEP is going to scheme. All right. What they've been doing is, okay, we can't run the ball up the middle against these guys. We're going to get the ball to the perimeter by throwing the ball in wide receiver screen. So they just threw a great wide receiver screen, picked up 7 yards, is second and 3. Okay, handed the ball off. One of the few successful runs in maybe 2 quarters up the middle, and they get the first down. All right, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit me up in the comments. Thank you so much to Jamie. I appreciate you giving your feedback in the chat. Don't get shy on me. Oh, he had a wide open wide receiver. Uh, I like this guy Thomas for UTEP. He's a hybrid running back wide receiver. He was the one who beat the cornerback on the sole. No, he beat the safety on the sole touchdown for UTEP today. He's probably their player of the game, even though he hasn't had that many opportunities to make plays. Quarterback just missed him across the middle for about a 15-yard pass. I love what UTEP is doing. They're not panicking though. They're down 37-7 and they're still running the ball effectively. They just picked up 13 yards on a run play inside, right? So to Jamie's point, uh, even though even though Nebraska is much bigger than UTEP, they have not abandoned the run in the third quarter, even though they're down by 30 points. Picked up another 3 yards there, a run right up the middle. We'll see what they call here. Oh, they take a big shot downfield. Oh my God, the wide receiver was wide open. Quarterback overthrew him. Again, it was the Thomas guy, that hybrid running back, wide receiver. Oh, yep. Cornerback falls down. Quarterback just overshoots him. That was a touchdown, man. Right through his hands. He threw it a little bit too far. He should have pulled back on that, and that was a touchdown. Now, this is what I mean by their secondary is a little bit, they haven't shown me that they're going to be able to handle our playmakers in that wide receiver room. So even if we're having trouble running the ball, I don't think that's going to really be any different than what we saw our wide receivers be able to do against NDSU. I don't think the quality of corners and safeties takes a big jump between NDSU and Nebraska, which spells trouble for Nebraska. Because we know Shadeur is accurate, we know he's going to get the ball downfield, and we know he's going to get his throws. If that secondary cannot cover, they're going to have big problems at Nebraska. Now, the only way that happens, though, is if our offensive line against their defensive line and their front seven can give Shadeur 3.5 seconds. We didn't see that happen in the first game. Shout out to David Talks Buffs. He went into PFF. On average, Shadeur had 2.9 seconds. If we can get him that extra zero point 0.6 seconds, we might see a high scoring, very explosive game from the Colorado Buffaloes against Nebraska. Anybody got any score predictions? If you have any score predictions, I'd love to hear them. I have Colorado with the win. And not this is not just off of wishful thinking. I think this is off of the coaches having 10 days to prepare for Nebraska. Nebraska's playing on Saturday. We played on Thursday, so the guys probably had a rest day on Friday, watched some film. I don't know how they do their weekends at Colorado, but they have 10 days to prepare for Nebraska. And they're now going to have game film on Dylan Raiola in a college setting, and now they can scheme. They also have film that they can watch on themselves from the first game of the season, and I might not be surprised if we see some starting changes on who's going to run out there for the defense, maybe even who's going to run out there on the offensive line. This is going to be a very interesting week for Colorado. I don't believe they issued a depth chart before the NDSU game. I don't know if that trend is going to continue into week 2, but I would not be surprised if some of the starters from week 1 are not necessarily starters from week 2. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the guys like Michael Welsh, who didn't play in week 1, see a lot of playing time in week 2. So those are a couple of things. Now, in terms of a score prediction based on um, what I've seen so far, uh, I think a 24-14 game against Nebraska with the win for Colorado is what I'm predicting. 24-14. It's going to be a 10-point game. I think we're going to have success on the ground. I think we're going to be able to give Shadeur 3.5 seconds to throw the ball. I think Travis is going to have a 2 touchdown game, over 100 yards receiving. I think we also pick up an interception this game. And I think we get at least 2 sacks on Raiola before it's all said and done. So a couple of things I said there, right? 24-14 is my prediction. I think we run the ball more effectively. This game we're going to have over 100 yards rushing. I think last game we had like 50 something. I think Travis is going to have another 2 touchdown performance, over 100 yards receiving. I think we get our first interception of the season this game, right? Raiola throws a pick to our secondary, and our defensive line gets at least 2 sacks on the quarterback. I think it represent an improvement over week 1 if that is the outcome of this game. I think Shador still does his thing. I think they're able to pass the ball, but this game, I'm going for at least a minimum of 100 yards rushing. All right, guys, let me know in the comments. Do you want me to do more of these kind of previews, more live conversations? I'm willing to do them. I need to get my reps in. The more reps I get in, the better I'll get. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Please hit that like button. We want to grow this community of common sense buffs. This is the kind of commentary you're going to find here, man. No exaggeration. What the kids say, no glazing. I'm going to do my best to give you an analysis of what we're doing well and what we're not doing well as a Colorado Buffaloes football team. I am a fan, and I'm a fan beyond just football. I think what Dion is doing in terms of not only raising great football players, but raising great men is very important. And to all of you out there who are watching this stream, let's keep the main thing the main thing. Number 1, take care of your spiritual, physical, mental, emotional health. Number 2, take care of your family because that is your responsibility. Number 3, take care of your work, how you make your money. And then, of course, number 4, you can come out here and do what you do, which for me, this is my passion to talk about Colorado Buffaloes football. All right, y'all, this game has turned into a blowout. There's nothing much left to see here. I hope you enjoy the rest of this college football Saturday. I'm going to keep watching more games, eat some food, and just relax, man. I pray that God blesses you. I thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated. Until next time, man. Peace.